This review was made possible by contributions from viewers like you.
Hey guys, for this final look at Free Comic Book Day at SoCal Games and Comics, my executive producers have decided that we should go back to Wonderland, starting with Grimm Fairytales presents Wonderland. Hooray! Time to delve back into the convoluted, nonsensical labyrinth of breadcrumbs that is Zenescope's Wonderland comics. Maybe this one will have more of a point to it than the John Wayne Gacy comic from a few weeks ago. But looking at this cover, I kinda doubt it. We see two Alices, one more traditional in appearance and one looking like a Hot Topic patron, tearing away at the face of a giant Mad Hatter. For some reason, he looks like a white Barack Obama with the face of Ross Perot underneath. Because they both have big ears, and that means they're the same person? Dun dun dun? I dunno. The story so far. When a collector approaches Madame Dodgson, a purveyor of rare antiquities and artifacts, with the intention of buying the notorious Liddell mirror, he discovers that there is more to the history of the mirror than myth and legend. Journey through the looking glass to a realm where nothing is what it seems, and even the most innocent may be hiding the grin of a madman. Journey to Wonderland! And just like in the last Zenescope Wonderland book that we read, the backstory does not offer a backstory of any kind, but instead just tells us what to expect in this comic. Brilliant. We open on the curio shop of the aforementioned Madame Dodgson as she meets this pudgy collector about purchasing the Liddell looking glass. He asks if the mirror is cursed like the legends revolving around it say it is, but she assures him that it isn't cursed at all. It just shows the gruesome details of the Liddell family history. Yep, nothing strange going on here. Rarely are stories told that unify fascination, wonder, and terror in such magnificent fashion. I mean, even the bad Marvel movies are just sort of meh at worst. They all died, didn't they? Yeah. Alice in Wonderland was first published in 1865. They all died a long time ago. Moron. The next couple of pages vaguely tells us how Alice and her family went mad, although not from any kind of curse, Madame Dodgson assures us, and at some point Alice's daughter, Carol Ann, sometimes has black hair, and sometimes she has blonde, and her brother finds the Mad Hatter's hat? I think? Then Carol Ann is pregnant, and her baby is taken away by Ebenezer Scrooge? Then we see Mazikeen from Lucifer in a fighting montage with some kind of demon Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter, and the Jabberwocky. Meanwhile, it's backed up with something about madness and seizing your destiny and more vague, non-specific mumbo-jumbo that sounds profound while distracting you from the fact that it isn't explaining anything. Seriously, the longer this backstory goes on, the more confused I am than when I didn't know anything at all. The backstory continues with Carol Ann and her daughter, whom was not taken from her, running from the horrors of Wonderland, only to go back into Wonderland years later for no heavily explored reason. And Violet, the daughter, is dressed up like a slutty red queen. I don't get it. Then Carol Ann becomes one with the Matrix or something and purges the entire land of madness and evil. What? And furthermore, what? The collector sees younger versions of Dodgson and himself in the mirror. Then the mirror, starts to eat the collector as Dodgson lowers it over him. She's also talking about qualities that her family possesses, and I have no idea what it's supposed to do with anything. Those who would run, hide, and cower can only teach their children to do more of the same. The Liddells are a sad example of where this behavior leads. Admittedly, I should have been a bit more clear about who was doing what, but you get my point. Then she explains to us that those reflections are actually her children in there. Why not just pull them out? and that she'll always have a steady supply of human flesh for them to feed on, since antique shops are always attracting curious new customers. So that was Grimm Fairytales presents Wonderland. The hell was this? Seriously, what did I just read here? The comics released at Free Comic Book Day are supposed to appeal to the non-comic reading public to give them a little taste of what they're missing and entice them to buy more comics. Apparently, Zenescope's idea of selling their Wonderland comics is by offering a story that has nothing to do with Alice in Wonderland, and instead give us a couple of ravenous cannibals. That'll attract your readers in droves. And just like with the John Wayne Gacy comic, off with your head. Now that that confusing mess is out of the way, let's see what Hatter M, Love of Wonder, has to offer. Our comic drearily opens on Oxford, England, where we see Lewis Carroll waiting for friends to arrive for tea. Suddenly bursting through his door is... Victorian-era Dr. Octopus, who calls himself Hatter Madigan. Oh boy, here we go. As one of the Royal Guard, Hatter is looking for Princess Alice, spelled A-L-Y-S-S, get it? Who is seen in one of John Tenniel's original illustrations here for Carroll's book. Carroll explains that she's at Kensington Palace in London, since she's due to be married, and Hatter immediately goes there to get her back. But the Royal Guards of London waste no time firing on him, and he beats a bloody retreat. He makes it back into Wonderland by hopping into a puddle, sure is a good thing that any reflective surface will do that, and he informs his superiors of the situation. Then they send someone named Dodge Anders to get Alice back. Word of Alice reaches the Queen of Hearts, and she offers her head agent, Cat, who I think is supposed to be the Cheshire Cat, but he never smiles in this comic, so who the hell knows, to take her army of robotic playing cards into London to have Alice killed. It sure was nice in this comic to include Lewis Carroll when they're just going to ruin his books anyway. Anders finds Alice in her bedroom, without alerting the guards like Hatter did somehow, and he tries to appeal to her as her best friend, but it turns out she has no memory of him. He tells her that she's destined to be Queen of Wonderland, and she turns it around on him and gives him the royal order to leave immediately.
Why, Dodge Anders? Why did you take so long? Don't you see I am locked inside this reality? What is the golden key to unlock reality? Madness or love? Tomorrow I marry Leopold. I must love or go mad.
So, if you're trapped in this reality, why didn't you let him rescue you? Another one of the Queen of Hearts' agents, named Dallen, who may be a Hatter himself, is also on Alice's trail. This is kind of pointless since the cat and the robo-cards crash the wedding the next day, opening fire on everything that moves. Yeah, some people like to accuse Tim Burton of taking all the whimsy out of Alice in Wonderland. I'll see your Tim Burton movie and raise you with this comic. It's a man! It's a cat! It's a man-cat! You mean, it's Super Cat! Anders grabs Alice to take her back to Wonderland when they bump into Hatter Madigan. But no, it isn't Hatter Madigan, it's Dalton, his brother. He throws his weird, knifey spider legs at them, but they're blocked by Hatter M himself. Anders and Alice ride off together as the Hatters are about to duke it out, and that's where the story ends. If you enjoyed this preview, show yourself some love and buy the full volume. Thanks, but no thanks. This is a comic I'm gonna pass on. The art is interesting to look at, but otherwise, this comic's a mess. Rather than take the original material and try to explore the darker themes already associated with it, this comic decides it'd rather be a cyberpunk Game of Thrones ripoff and plugging random Wonderland names into random characters who have otherwise no connections to the source material. Why would the Hatter be a royal guard? Why is the Cheshire Cat some crony to the Queen of Hearts? Why give the Hatter an evil twin to fight instead of pitting him against his old friend, the March Hare? Nothing in this story makes sense!
It makes perfect sense!
It makes perfect sense.
I'm sorry, Hatter M, but into the box with you. I just hope that these horrible comics don't deter any of you from attending Free Comic Book Day, because occasional stinkers notwithstanding, it really is a lot of fun. I've got a few comics left to go over with my patrons, So check out your local store, see what they've got, make some friends, and I'll see you later.
The life of comic fandom can be lonely, but just around the corner can be found a place that lets you know you're not the only nerdy true believer who's around. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. On top of everything I can see, I love my store 'cause I get to watch the next generation fall in love like me. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
Subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, watch more.